Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be covering the observation project, which I described to some of you in class, but not everyone. So this was a project that is described in the new syllabus and more or less the same way in the old syllabus, but with some differences. So be sure to consult the new syllabus. But this was a project we were going to originally do in this class anyway. It was originally going to be a class presentation. Each of you would give a roughly 5-minute presentation. Instead, in this new format, it's going to be a written submission where you would cover the same things you would have said in your presentation. You can also submit a video presentation if you prefer. And this is due on, let me just check to be sure, I believe May 18th. Yes, by May 18th, submitted on Blackboard. So what is the observation project? The basic idea is to observe your own behavior or the behavior of someone else who you can observe, which is hopefully in our current circumstances is a small number of consistent people right now, for better or for worse. And so you're observing behavior and trying to identify a unique skill that you or the person you're observing has developed as a result of your history in a particular activity, your history of doing something. So the idea of this is we all can identify skills that we've developed. You know, you can say, I learned to read, I learned to write, I learned another language, I learned to, specific skill in a class at Queensborough, you learn to do specific type of math, memorize the multiplication tables. We can all think of and identify skills that we have, but there are many more skills that we don't normally recognize ourselves as having that are actually extremely complex, and they're overlooked, just operating sort of unnoticed in the background. And these overlooked skills develop because of our history doing a particular thing in a particular context over and over again. So whenever you do something over and over again, you become more proficient at it. And at a certain point, you reach a level where you can spontaneously come up with a new and more skilled way of doing something than you would have originally done. So the goal of the observation project is for you to carefully observe your own behavior or someone else's behavior and identify and carefully describe a skill that you can see that has developed in their behavior. So let me give you an example. If I was doing this project, I might, throughout the course of the day, observe how I do the various things that I do that I've done repeatedly. So one example would be with a shirt like this. I often wear these button-down shirts, and so they have these small buttons on them. You have to open and close. Every time I take the shirt on or off, I button and unbutton the buttons. Now, if I wear these shirts every day, and there are 6 buttons, or 7 if it's a more formal day. Those days are behind us for the moment. So if I'm doing that every day, I'm buttoning 7 buttons, unbuttoning 7 buttons every single day. So I have a lot of experience with this particular task of buttoning and unbuttoning the button. Now, a child, maybe not a very young child, but a child with some level of motor development could, as could an adult, easily button and unbutton the shirt buttons. The difference is, though, someone like myself who repeatedly buttons and unbuttons these buttons has developed a sophisticated skill for doing so. So when I'm taking the shirt on, or putting the shirt on and taking it off, I can, with just 3 fingers, unbutton the button easily, and then button it back up again. Even an adult with well-developed motor skills who had never worn a shirt like this or button to button like this would, although they could button and unbutton the button, would not do it that way. They would not be able to just take 3 fingers and with a quick motion of their hand and without even looking, button and unbutton the shirt. So that would be an example of the type of skill that I want you to identify for this project. So your goal is these steps are laid out in the syllabus. You first carefully observe your own behavior or someone else's behavior. And as you're doing that, you're looking for skills like this. Now, when you find a skill, then you write it up and just describe it in a way where it can be understood by someone else. So if I was doing the example of the shirt buttoning, I would write up a description of the shirt, the act of buttoning it, and it might make sense to include a picture of like the 3 fingers that I use in buttoning and unbuttoning the shirt. You want to be able to, in the final paper you submit, which is only like 2 pages, double-spaced, I want you to clearly describe what the skill is so that someone reading the paper can get a good understanding of what you're doing. If you want to, you can also do a video. Would be much easier to depict a skill like buttoning and unbuttoning the shirt. In other cases, a video would not necessarily be useful. And again, I know that this is kind of a confusing assignment at first, and I'll be available to help you, to give you further instructions and suggestions. But to begin with, you want to start by observing your own behavior and trying to identify skills that have developed in the activities of everyday life that you've repeatedly engaged in. One other constraint that I want to give you for this project is try to find something unexpected. It can be mundane, like the shirt buttoning thing is certainly not a very exciting skill, I'll admit. But it's a complex skill. Even an adult who had never used the button like this could not, the first time, button and unbutton the button as easily as someone who wears shirts like this all the time can. And it's a skill that you would not have necessarily expected at first that you would have. So try to find things like that, kind of unexpected skills. So the final version of this is going to be submitted on May 18th in a 2-page, up to 2 pages. Really, the length of the paper depends on how much you need to describe. How long does it take you to describe the skill that you've identified? So if it's shorter than that, that's fine. If it has to be longer, it has to be longer. You just want to convey to someone who is not familiar with the skill what the skill is and what the task is, and how the skilled approach that you've developed goes beyond what would be expected of a novice. So please let me know if you have questions or comments on this. I'm sure there will be many. I'm going to create on Blackboard, a discussion forum for any comments or questions about this project. So submit any concerns or questions or comments that you have there, and then I'll address them on there in a public way so that you can see from other students' questions what my answers are. That if you would rather not do that, you can also email me. And I anticipate putting out a follow-up video with further instructions. So I hope to hear from you. Take a look at this and also the instructions on the syllabus, and then let me know what your questions are. Remember, the final submission, the 2-page double-spaced paper, is due on May 18th. All right.